Yo, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video here on the Go on Fourth YouTube channel. Welcome back to another podcast for the Week 4 NFL recap, reactions, all that good stuff. We're talking about Week 4, Amani and myself. We're going to just jump right into it because it's a pretty eventful week, and I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. Let's talk about the prevailing storyline all weekend is the Dolphins and the Bengals. It's the most annoying shit ever. Uh, I mean, I guess we should talk about it. I think you should go first because I feel like I'm gonna have a more passionate stance on this than you are. So, what are your thoughts on? Let's start with the game first, and then obviously the drama afterwards. I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was probably one of the better primetime games that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Actually, teams moving the ball, downfield. Even when Tua got hurt and Teddy came in, you know, it was it was competent play. I thought Miami's defensive game plan was pretty poor for the most part. I thought I saw too much single coverage out there, allowing those Bengals receivers to get loose, and I think that's what ultimately decided the game. Obviously, if Tua's healthy, probably win that game, but I didn't really like what I saw from Josh Boyer and company, and yeah, that's pretty much what decided the game. Those 1-on-ones down the field.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's 3 weeks running. I mean, it's been 3 weeks continuously that I've talked about how I'm not a huge fan of what the Dolphins defense has put out on the field, the product that they put out there. And this is just continuing that same theme of, first of all, poor tackling in space. Joe Mixon did only have 24 carries for 61 yards, which they did a better job of stopping him than I expected them to do. But really, it was just a lot of the same, man. It was a lot of passes out into the flats, missed tackles, getting beat deep with some backup corners that are less experienced. And it wasn't necessarily Xavier Howard getting beat. I think he got beat once
Yeah, for the touchdown.
for the touchdown, right, to T. Higgins. And it's funny because I would have thought T. Higgins was going to have a great game because of the fact that he was not going to be on Xavier Howard most of the game or be covered by Xavier Howard. But ended up the biggest play of the game, and the big touchdown was right on Xavier Howard. So I don't know, man. It's a defense that just doesn't really have a lot of just they don't really have an identity and they don't really have a ton of quality pieces that in my opinion are meshing well together. I think Javon Holland is good, Xavier Howard is good, but it feels like they're all making individual plays and not necessarily working well as a cohesive unit. I think their linebacking core is weak. I think their defensive line is good, but they're not playing well. They obviously stopped Joe Mixon, but at the pass rush, I mean, Joe Burrow got sacked one time, and he was getting rid of the ball. But for a guy that traditionally holds on to the ball for a pretty long time, and for an offensive line that's supposed to be really terrible, one sack for a 6-yard loss is not good enough. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the defensive effort. Basically for the third straight week, and offensively, I thought the game plan was good. I liked the way the Dolphins came out. It seemed like they were attacking. They were on the front foot. Tua threw it 14 times basically in the first half. There was still about 5 minutes left in the half when he came out. So he was probably going to have somewhere around 18 to 19 attempts in the first half, which is a lot. So I like the aggression that they showed. I didn't like the aggression that Tua showed on the interception that he threw. I think it wasn't and we talked about this off recording, but it wasn't a bad read, which is what would bother me more. It was just a bad throw, and the throw is mechanics based. Like he can make a better throw than that. It's him when he makes bad reads is where I think Tua gets into big trouble. So I was okay with the read. Obviously the throw was not good. And yeah, I mean Teddy came in. I thought he looked fine up until the end of the game, where he threw a pick.
Yeah, I mean, he's driving down. You're down five with a chance to basically take the lead and what you think win the game at that point. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a bad miscommunication between Gesicki and Teddy. Teddy thinks he's just going to see zone coverage and sit. He bends the route, up the field, and there's Von Bell just sitting in that deep half, ready for
Yeah.
it. And it's kind of what that ended it there.
Yeah, I mean it's disappointing because I think Teddy probably played well enough to deserve to get the win, and I think that the Dolphins offensively played pretty well. There now he did make some errant throws in the game that in my opinion, you always have to think, man, if Tua was in, is he going to hit that throw? Is he going to hit that target? There's a couple throws in the game where I thought, Teddy's obviously not Tua in terms of his accuracy. Teddy's a good enough quarterback to win in this league with the weapons that the Dolphins have around him. So I think 15 points is probably unfair on the Dolphins offense, especially with everything they had to deal with during that game in terms of the emotions of watching one of your teammates get carted off the field. And there was a lot that played into that game. And I think we'll see the offense progress, especially during a weaker second half of the season for a second, quarter of the season for the Dolphins. But obviously we need to talk about Tua. And you can go ahead. I'll let you start, and then I will interject at a certain point. So.
Yeah, so I'll never, claim to be a doctor or anything. So I don't know if his injury, it really propelled from one week to another. I don't know if it's similar and if it's not. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to pretend to be, a neurosurgeon. I don't know. I have no clue.
Well, then you're better than half of Twitter. So you can take that title.
Yeah, I'll take solace in that.
Great.
I was just my reaction. Like, I was frightened. Like, I'd never really seen something like that. And the way his fingers kind of seized up, I wasn't really sure if he got slammed on his neck, if it was if he was potentially like paralyzed. I was shook. Like, I'd never seen something like that. I'm very glad he's okay. He flew back home with the team. He's on track to probably play in a couple weeks. But so yeah, I don't know. I don't have an opinion on whether he should or should not have played. I mean, he seemed like he was moving fine. I mean, I don't know. So I'll just leave it at that, and I won't speculate, and I won't try to say everyone should be fired and draft picks should be taken away because I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have a similar sentiment to that, and obviously people listening, if this is your first time listening to us, which a lot of people it probably would be, Tua's been my favorite player since he was at Alabama. He is, one of my favorite football players of all time just because of what he was able to do in Tuscaloosa and how he kind of changed the culture of football around that team and around that program. He made Alabama a 21st century offense, whereas before they were not. So Tua, I have a soft spot for him, always will. When he took the sack, my initial thought was, you got to throw the fucking ball away, you idiot. Stop holding onto the ball for so long. That's his fatal flaw. He tries to make a play out of everything, right? So I was mad that he didn't throw the ball away. When I noticed it was bad, obviously there was a big concern there for, especially not even too far removed from the Ryan Shazier incident. We're only a few years removed from that. It was scary. It was one of those things. Once I saw the replay, I knew he was probably fine. And fine, I use fine as a kind of a loose term. Obviously, a concussion is not the best case scenario for a player, but in comparison to all the things that the Twitter doctors thought it was, he's fine. And to me, when you look at a hit like that and you look at what happened, there's not a lot of players that are playing right now that if they get thrown to the ground with that kind of force and land the way that Tua did, that they wouldn't get knocked out in the same way. Again, I don't have a medical degree. I have no medical knowledge whatsoever of the situation. So again, I'm just the same as people on Twitter. I have no idea. I don't know what his symptoms were like before the game. I don't know that he had a concussion the week before. Everybody seems to jump to the conclusion that he did. I don't think he did. And I don't know that it would have mattered. I don't think that having a concussion the prior week caused him to get knocked out in this game. I think he was going to get knocked out either way because of the impact on his head. My issue is that even when there's evidence pointing to the contrary, people want to jump to the worst possible conclusion that they can. There's evidence to the contrary that his career is in jeopardy. People saying that he should consider retiring. The doctor from the concussion movie with Will Smith, who's like a CTE expert, said today that Tua should retire from football or consider retiring. It is laughable at best, right? Because it was such a hot button issue last week before the game, And because of the optics of it, people now want to jump on the he should retire bandwagon. And on my personal Twitter account, which nobody follows, so it's fine. Uh, there was a tweet that just irked me, and I usually don't tweet, but I had to reply to it about him needing to retire. And T. Higgins, and people are going to get tired of this being like whataboutism with T. Higgins, but it is. T. Higgins in week 1 was knocked out, very similarly to how Tua was. He took a shot to the head. His arms went stiff, which is the fencing. Was it fencing reflex or whatever they called it, which everybody has already seen a million times over, but they just pretended like they've never seen it before. It happened to T. Higgins in week 1. He came back and played in week 3, got hit on the head again, went out of the game, came back into the game, and then played in week 4. So all the things that everybody's saying the Dolphins did wrong, the Bengals must have also done wrong, in my opinion, right? And again, it's not whataboutism. That's not the point. The point is, players come back and play with concussions, or come back from concussions to play football every year, all the time. Happens all the time. Tua had nothing more than a concussion. Every MRI is cleared. Every single test that he's done is fine. It is a concussion. It is a regular concussion. It's not a quote-unquote severe concussion. I don't know how some concussions are more severe than others. Concussion's a concussion as far as I know. And again, I'm not an expert in the field, but I've never heard, oh, it's a grade 2 concussion or a grade 3 concussion. Like, it's a concussion, right? Some of them can be worse than others, but I've never, I don't understand the difference between how, if you're not his doctor, you can say that it's a severe concussion versus just a regular old concussion. I don't know. In my opinion, he'll be back in 2 weeks. I think he should play against the Vikings if he's able to. If he is capable of playing, if he passes the concussion protocol test, he should play against the Vikings. Now, they might not do that because they might be afraid of the optics of it. But if it's just a concussion, a regular concussion like people get every week in the NFL, he should play in 2 weeks, because that would be 17 days of rest off of a concussion, which is a very, very almost longer than most people take to get over one. So that's where I stand on it. I don't think he should be out for the rest of the season, like some people are saying. Even Dolphins fans, are you guys fucking stupid? Like, why would he be out for the whole season, man? It's a concussion. He didn't break his neck. He doesn't have a brain bleed. It's a concussion, man. He got knocked out. It happens a lot. And I can tell the people that watch college football versus people that don't. Because if you watch college football, you see people get knocked out every week. At least once. Like, at least once every week, somebody has that fencing posture. And you go, oh, woo, whoa. And then you get over it. And then the guy plays in 2 weeks, and it's like, all right, cool. That's what should happen here. Whether it does or doesn't is up to, obviously, Mike McDaniel. It's up to Tua's health. It's up to the Dolphins training staff. But I don't know. And they're doing a whole investigation. And if that comes back that he had a concussion and went back in the game, well, they've already fired the doctor anyway, so it doesn't even matter, because who else are you going to fire? He's the one that told him that everybody was good to go back in. So I don't know. It's kind of like you fired him without even knowing whether he did something wrong, which, I mean, that's pretty fitting for how these things go lately nowadays. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's a shitty situation. It sucks for Tua. It sucks for the Dolphins, because I think that their season was really going to kick into gear here. I think that they had a chance to start 4-0 and then never look back. Obviously, they didn't come out of the gates looking strong in that game. Tua made a bad throw and threw a pick. But I think with the way that the game was played, I think that the Dolphins had a good opportunity to win that football game if he was healthy, if he played the whole game. So I don't know. I think they're capable of beating the Jets next week without him. I don't think it's a cakewalk. I think people, Dolphins fans especially, are kind of thinking it's going to be like an easy win with Teddy. I don't agree. But they should be able to win that football game. And then it's all about, when can he come back? Is it against the Vikings or is it against the Steelers on Sunday night? We'll just have to see. But yeah, that's where I stand on the Tua thing. And it's really I don't think it's a controversial stance. I think he has a concussion. Everybody knows that. When he passes the protocol, I think he should be allowed to get back onto the field, and he will be allowed. It just kind of depends on when he passes the protocol and when McDaniel and the other Dolphins coaches and trainers see fit to put him out there.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah. It's just basic, man. It's a basic injury. It was scary at the time. It looked horrible. People were freaked out. If he had laid on the field for a minute, got up and walked off the field, then nobody would be saying his career needs to end. It's because he got carted off. It's because of the optics of it, because of his fingers, right? So everybody thinks that he needs to never play again, which is silly. It's just not realistic, man. Like, he's not going to retire because he got one concussion. or we got two concussions really, really close together. Whatever, dude. He didn't, but, He's not going to retire. It's just stupid. It really makes me mad because it's like I see Dolphins fans even saying, "I would understand it too. You got to look out for your health." It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. He got a concussion, man. Like people, oh man, I don't know. People play with concussions all the fucking time. People get over concussions in 2 weeks and come back to play. Tua's gonna be fine. He's gonna play this year within a couple weeks, if I had to guess. Moving on, because I don't want to talk about that shit anymore. Minnesota and New Orleans. I didn't watch.
Not to interrupt, but Aaron Judge just broke the record.
Wow. And maybe they can stop doing the cut-ins for his at-bats now.
Yeah, that is officially over. Some guy just jumped from the first row in seats in left field into the bullpen and didn't even get the ball.
Oh, no. Fuck. Oh, that's really unlucky. Well, speaking of things that I didn't see that home run, and I didn't see this game. I didn't watch a single minute of this game. I did not wake up early to watch it. 9:30 is not early, but I did wake up at 9:30, but I just didn't want to watch this game. I had no interest. You can call me a fake football fan, whatever. Yes. I didn't have any interest in watching Andy Dalton play quarterback again. I saw enough of that for 8 or 9 years in Cincinnati. I have no interest in watching him play. I had no interest in watching Latavius Murray just play football again.
Be the best running back on that team. Be the best
running back on that team, apparently, and get picked up by who did he get picked up by? Oh shit!
I didn't see that. Did he get released?
He got no. He got picked up because he was on the practice squad, and the Saints didn't call him up permanently. He got picked up by the Broncos.
Was it Denver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Broncos. Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that like a couple of days ago. I was like, it makes sense that he would go there, but that's good.
Yeah, I mean he'll be the number one over there at one. Melvin Ingram. Jeez, Melvin Gordon fumbles again. He'll take that job. Yeah. I mean I didn't watch this game, so I don't have a lot to add. I can stat sheet peek and see that Jay Jetta had a good game. I remember seeing on Twitter that people were saying he was abusing Marshawn Lattimore, so good for him. He got out of the hell of Jeff Okudah and managed to come back and play well. Thielen finally had a good game, and that looks like that was it for the offense. Now I will say this because I did see bits and pieces of this game. I won't lie to you. Kevin O'Connell, Mr. Field Goal. Can we give him the moniker of Mr. Field Goal? Is he Mr. Field Goal now because he took like 1 million field goals in this game?
Yeah, he sure did. I mean, there was a 4th and 1. There's end of half where he kind of mismanages his timeouts. Almost pseudo played for 3. It was his play calling was was phenomenal. It was a really fun game to watch. I am one who did wake up at 9:30 and watched every single snap of this game. And I mean, I thought it was I thought it was a pretty clean game for the most part.
Yeah.
His play calling was really good, but his head coaching management was pretty poor, and it almost led them to to be in overtime with the Andy Dalton led Saints.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting though watching the new head coaches because we've seen now first year head coaches really struggle this year a little bit more than other years I would say. But watching Brian Daboll and watching Mike McDaniel and how they manage games and how they approach certain aspects of time management, things of that nature. I do think Mike McDaniel, I think he wasted a challenge early in the game, if I remember right. People were saying that was like his first big mistake as a coach, but like he wastes challenges all the time. It's not a big deal. But Kevin O'Connell, they're 3-1, right? So we can't say anything about him, but I did see some snippets of the game, and I read some articles and heard some things about his game management and things like that not being great. And I think it's kind of just a running theme amongst the rookie head coaches this year, aside from, like I said, Daboll and McDaniel so far. And we haven't seen, full season's worth of game and clock management and situational management. But one thing that I can say that I think should probably happen is Minnesota should definitely look to trade for Marcus Peters because he would definitely appreciate the amount of field goals that Kevin O'Connell decided to take. He would be really happy to be on the Vikings with that amount of field goals. I think we do really briefly need to talk about Chris Olave. I don't want to talk about the Saints at all. I've said all I need to say about the Saints. I think that they're terrible. I think that they're only going to get exposed more because of how bad they are, especially because they're bad at the quarterback position. I know Andy Dalton played a pretty good football game, a clean football game, but they're going to go back to Jameis, and it's going to be ugly. The season's going to be ugly, and you can't really like Andy Dalton's a quarterback you can win with a little bit, but not a guy that is ever really going to take you anywhere. So to me, when you have quarterbacks like that, you're just kind of a boring team. Like you don't interest me. You're not going anywhere. You have nothing exciting about your team at the quarterback position. Nothing exciting at any of the skill positions really, aside from Chris Olave, who, in my opinion, through the first 4 weeks has looked like the best rookie wide receiver. Obviously, it's early. His ability to get open, his ability to command targets down the field. I think he has like the most air yards in the NFL. I know he certainly does by rookies, but I think it might be the whole NFL. The most air yards in the NFL. It's impressive, man. It really is. And for a guy that's on the same team as Michael Thomas, who did not play this game, and Jarvis Landry, who is he played, but like I think for a rookie to come in 4 weeks, demand the amount of targets he's had, and produce to the level that he has is really impressive.
Yeah, and like Brian Hartline was saying, I mean, he's just so crisp within his routes. He makes the DBs reset their hips, every time he runs a route. He is a technician. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the biggest guy, but he is just an absolute technician. And he can get downfield too. I mean, we see it. Obviously, he leads the NFL in air yards. We see it week in, week out. I mean, he's just so impressive. Like as a rookie, and I mean, this is a trend that we've been seeing though. Justin Jefferson comes in and he's super impressive. Jamar Chase. I mean, this year we have 3 guys. We got Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and Chris Olave. This is, it's really good for the game to see these young guys really come in, play right away, and just be elite. Right away. It's really great to see.
Yeah, I think it just kind of goes further into showing you how the talent gap has decreased so much, and how these players, because of their training regimen and because of what they do in their free time in the off season, and because of how much work they really put into it, even these college guys, like they are pro ready by the time that they get up there. Like a lot of these guys are the finished product, man, and they're like ready to take the league over. I mean, I'm not saying Olave is necessarily doing that, because he's not putting up video game numbers like Jay Jetta, like Jamar Chase last year, and Jalen Waddle broke the rookie receiving record or receptions record last year as well. So like there's been multiple receivers from the same draft class. DK Metcalf's another good example of a guy that just came into the league guns blazing. You know what I mean? So it definitely is quite a lot of talented receivers that are coming into the league and just taking over. And I think that trend is probably going to continue this year. I think there's a lot of good receiving prospects this year that have the possibility of continuing that trend. I don't think it's quite as top heavy as previous years. I think it's a little bit more balanced. I think there's a good, maybe 5 or 6 receivers that could really come in and play meaningful snaps for good football teams in the NFL in this draft as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's and you just love to see that. Yeah. Really builds depth as well.
Yeah, right absolutely. Away. Yeah. Speaking of teams who could use a receiver, we'll talk about the Atlanta Falcons. They do have one, and it's Olamide Zaccheaus. So shout out to him. His two catches, 7 completions for Marcus Mariota in a win. That has got to be one of the fewest number of completions in a win in the NFL in quite some time. I don't know if there's like a stat for it. I haven't seen anything, but I would wager to guess that's a pretty low number for a win.
How many did Justin Fields have week 1?
Oh God, don't! I'm not looking that up. Don't make me look that up. Don't make me look that up. Well, while you look that up, I gotta talk about the Falcons, man, because I thought all week that there was a possibility the Falcons could win this football game. And I thought, man, Nick Chubb is going to just have his way with that defense. There's no way they're stopping him. And they didn't, really. But credit to Arthur Smith. This is another, new head coach in a way. And he really just kind of came out and got his team playing football the way that you want to see a bad team play. You want to see a bad team just compete and fight. And it's kind of what Brian Flores did with the Dolphins before the dark times when he had to draft a quarterback he didn't want, right? Like, he had these teams, and Arthur Smith has his team just fighting tooth and nail every game. I mean, really, realistically, they should be 3-1. They should not have lost to the Saints. They choked. So the Falcons should be 3-1 right now. They don't deserve any respect because they're a bad team. Let's not get it twisted, right? But I respect the fact that they're competing, even though they're terrible, And even with no talent offensively to speak of, they are competitive. They are competitive, and their defense is competitive as well. So I think that's big credit to Arthur Smith and what he's got going on over there.
Yeah, sure is. I mean, and they're they play to their strengths. I mean, Mariota, he's a dual threat quarterback. They line up the pistol a lot. They give him a lot of zone reads, power reads.
Mm-hmm.
Get the ball out of his hands quick. They don't make him drop back and read a defense because that's not his strong points.
Nope.
And the mark of a very good coach is you play to your team's strengths. You don't have him do something that he's not comfortable doing. You hammer the points that he's comfortable where you'll be successful, and that's outside of I think they should still target Kyle Pitts just a little bit more. But the game plan that they do have, I really do like it. It really suits their team well, and they're going to be competitive really week in week out. Because of this, and that's credit to Arthur Smith. And by the way, Justin Fields had 8 completions week 1, so
there you go.
Mariota beats him.
Yeah, he did. I will say this: that if you throw the ball 30 times a game, Pitts and Drake London should probably have 10 each, at least targets, right? Those are the the only 2 playmakers on your offense that really are worth mentioning. The rest of those guys are just roster filler. Damiere Byrd, Kaderil Hodge, those are roster filler guys. Those are. Our receiver, one of our receivers went down this week with a sprained ankle. We have to call a guy up. That's what those guys are, and they're playing for Atlanta. Cordell Patterson obviously wasn't playing as well today, and it opened the door for Tyler Algier, who had a really, really good game. Broke a really long run. Caleb Huntley even got in on the action, 56 yards on 10 carries. Not Cordell Patterson was hurt. He played, but I think he's kind of banged up a little bit, so they tried to limit his usage in this game.
Yeah.
And they managed to be competitive and win a football game with arguably their best player in Cordell Patterson, not their most talented player, but their best player, injured and basically just kind of banged up and not really out there. On the flip side, Stefanski, I think things are going to start kind of crashing down a little bit around him this year, and he's fine. He's not going to get fired because the ownership, they know what happened. They know the deal, right? Obviously, you didn't bring him in to coach Jacoby Brissett. You want him to coach Deshaun. He's coming back at some point, but I think it might be too late. I think by the time Deshaun gets there, if this is the team they're going to put out there week in and week out, I don't think that they're going to be in playoff contention when Deshaun gets back.
Yeah, I agree. It's like these are the games that you just have to win, and this game, the Jets game, you just can't lose these types of games. The lesser teams, because the competition is going to get a little more stiff, and if you're losing these games, I can't really see you, moving forward, and even being 5-6, when Deshaun comes back, this is a very crucial time for the Browns, and I don't know. It's not really much that they can do because Jacoby Brissett is your quarterback. You do have a really good run game, but you're just so limited. And I mean, look at the schedule. The Chargers,
it's brutal, man. They go through a murderer's row here.
Yeah, they sure do. I mean, my goodness, that's wow. Yeah.
I mean, that's a good maybe 6 losses there. It's at least somewhere between 4 and 6. I think they're capable of beating the Patriots. They probably should beat the Patriots. But these other games, man, they're going to have a tough time. I mean, they could still win these games. They could beat the Dolphins. They could definitely beat the Bengals. They could beat the Chargers. The Chargers have been kind of vulnerable this year, but I mean, you're either looking at maybe 3 wins or you're looking at like anywhere between 4 to 6 losses as well. So it's kind of it's a murderer's row, man, and we're going to find out how good that team is and how much they really,
It might be might be smart to go ahead and let's just go ahead and go 2-15, and let's draft number 31 from Alabama, and let's pair him with Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt anything. It certainly wouldn't. If Myles Garrett can make sure he doesn't wrap his car around a telephone pole or drive 9,000 miles an hour, then yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I honestly, dude, I have no sympathy. I have no sympathy for these dudes that get in these crazy cars and drive 9 trillion miles an hour. It's like I just don't just don't do that. Like, you're in a Porsche. You're the biggest human being on the planet. You're in a Porsche, which is a tiny ass car, and you're driving 7 trillion miles an hour. Just why? It's so stupid. Anyway, and all the people. Oh, never mind. Anyway, I was gonna say that it's people cared because Henry Ruggs killed somebody, but Myles Garrett's in a single car crash going 10 billion miles an hour, and nobody's saying like that's reckless. He shouldn't have. Like, I mean, people are saying he shouldn't have done it, but it's the outrage is so much less when he very easily could have done the same thing that Ruggs did. It just there was nobody on the road where he crashed. Like it's just honestly like these it's all athletes. All these athletes have to just stop. Like just stop driving these cars so fast. Like just relax. Look where you gotta be. You're fine. You just drive normal or get a driver. Hire a driver. You're so rich. Anyway, Washington and Dallas. Washington and Dallas. The legend of Cooper Rush continues to grow. He is 4-0 as a starter. I think it's like one of the only times in Cowboys history that their starting quarterback has been 4-0 to begin his career. It is interesting. It is a stat. I don't necessarily know how much Cooper Rush had to do with this, as much as it is, he's got weapons around him like CeeDee Lamb. And dude, Noah Brown's a competent wide receiver 3. He actually is really good, and people were wondering
I think he is. Yeah, I think he's a damn good player.
He is, man. He is. They've really done a nice job of finding ways to get him involved, and he's getting open, and they're getting the ball to him. He's wide receiver 3, and people were wondering, where did this Cooper money go? We didn't sign another receiver. And give Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore credit. I think they knew that Noah Brown was waiting in the lurch. They thought, hey, man, CD's number 1, Gallup's number 2, but we got a number 3 guy here that we think is good. We can bump Cooper out of here, save some money. So, more power to him. Because Noah Brown, he looks the part this year. He really does. He's picked up the slack for Gallup when he hasn't been playing. He's picked up the slack for CD in games where CD didn't really have a great game. He's great. He's been great, and he's a great third option to have. And a lot of teams desperate for even 2 good wide receivers, much less to have a number 3 like that. I mean he's been really good, and I don't want to sing his praises too much, but he's a really really good third option on a team that people were really had a lot of question marks about their receiving core this year. So Zeke did Zeke things, 2.5 yards per carry. He's back to his old self. Kellen Moore did Kellen Moore things. Tony Pollard had 8 touches of the ball, 9 touches of the ball, even though he's better than Zeke. Zeke had 21, Pollard had 9. It is what it is, right? I mean, Dallas is going to try to get Zeke involved as much as they can. Pollard, if he doesn't break a long run in like his first 2 carries, then they're really going to limit his touches all game. It feels like he's boom or bust. Like he has to get a 30-yard carry on his first snap, or he is just not going to be a factor.
Yeah, and it's the old once you return on your investment, then they're gonna try to give Zeke all the opportunity in the world, even though everyone sees he's not nearly as explosive as Pollard. He doesn't have that big playability, but Jerry's gonna Jerry, and we're gonna see number 21 for the Cowboys a lot on that field.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I still am of the belief that when his contract gives them the out that they can cut him without losing too much money, they're going to do that. I think that Jerry knows that he made a bad investment, and he's just trying to either make it look like it's a good investment or at least try to get as much out of it as he can before they eventually have to admit that they were wrong and cut him. And it's not that Zeke isn't a starting caliber running back in the league. I think he potentially is. He's just not a big money back. He's not a workhorse back. He should not be that. He is. I don't know. Like, what is he? I mean, I'm trying to find a guy to compare him to. I don't really have a comparison. He is Melvin Gordon. That's rude because he's better than Melvin Gordon, but like that's kind of what he is. Like he's a timeshare back.
Yeah.
Who's being asked to be a workload guy, and he has been a workload guy in the past, but he's not that guy anymore. He hasn't been that guy for a while. I think what Dallas probably should have done is taken the guy that Washington took in the 4th round, Brian Robinson, and let him either work with Zeke and Pollard, and then by the time that Zeke is ready to go, you got Robinson. You can just pop right in, and I think a backfield of Brian Robinson and Tony Pollard is good enough. I mean, honestly. So I think that that's probably what they'll do. They'll go get a big kind of solid first and second down running back, and then use Pollard as a third down guy eventually. But it just seems like they're trying to force the Zeke issue, and it's not really working. But their offense played well. They won the game. Cooper Rush played fine. In Washington, I mean, commiserations to him, man. They traded for Carson Wentz. They gave up draft capital they never should have given up. And they made the wrong decision. They should have traded for Jimmy G. They traded for Wentz. And not to say that Jimmy G is going to look better in this team, but you now know what Wentz looks like. So Your alternative
Yeah.
was maybe we should have traded for Jimmy G just to see what he could do in this offense. Um, Wentz is spent, man. He's spent, and I don't know. I don't even know if you're Wentz. Do you want a backup quarterback job, or do you just want to like say, "Fuck it, I'm done. Like I'm packing it in," because he's really not having a good season, and he is not having fun out there. You can tell all over his face. He is miserable, and I don't know if he plays anymore. I don't know if he plays after this year. I think he might just be done.
Yeah, I mean it's rough, and like we said before, he's one of those quarterbacks where everything has to, everything around him, all the variables around him has to be really perfect
Yeah.
for him to go and succeed. And I mean, you're seeing here, he can't really make turn shit into lemonade.
No.
It's the
No.
offensive line is rough. His receivers aren't really creating a lot of separation. Yeah, you're right. You can see it on his face. He just looks spent. He
Yeah.
looks like what more can I do? I'm just getting screamed at every play. I don't have anybody to throw it to. My starting running back shot himself or got shot.
Got shot. Yeah. Yeah. I
you know
mean,
this. I'm playing for Ron Rivera, who should have been fired 8 years ago. It's like it's and not to say it's all on everybody else because he isn't playing well either.
he's
So
not,
it's
and it definitely does come down to him. And I think the reason that we're kind of giving him a more of a pass is because most people just jump to blame him immediately. I think Carson Wentz is a serviceable quarterback. He was an MVP caliber quarterback for the Eagles at a certain point. He's never ever going to get back to that. I think if you put him in the right position on the right team, he could. I think he would be the best quarterback on the Saints roster right now if you put him on the Saints. Um,
yeah.
I do. I think he's better than Jameis. I think he's better than Andy Dalton. He just unfortunately went to a situation where, like you said, he has, and it's the same. Really, it's really the same situation. Same thing that happened with Philly. Is he ended up in a position where he had a bunch of receivers that couldn't get open, and he's not the type of quarterback that's going to extend a play, make a play on his own, or and right now it doesn't seem like he has receivers that are really interested in breaking off of their routes, trying to find creative ways to get open. Like Rivera's trying to get Curtis Samuel involved in the game in every way that he possibly can. But on routes that they're not just calling designed plays specifically for these receivers to get easy looks, they're not getting open. Like Terry McLaurin is supposed to be a star. And Trayvon Diggs, and credit to Trayvon Diggs because people shit on him all year last year for giving up yards. He has been locked down this year. So I don't know who he trained with, who he worked with in the offseason. I don't know, but whatever he did, he figured something out. Like he got the cheats because he's locked up everybody so far this year. But Terry McLaurin, for what was supposed to be a budding superstar in this league, he looks like he's turned into a pumpkin. Like he honestly just isn't the player that they need him to be at this stage in his career when we thought he was taking that next step towards being a superstar here a couple years ago.
Yeah, he's it almost feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it just feels like the Allen Robinson situation.
It is.
It's a guy that didn't really put up huge numbers, but no, he had some really good games, and the narrative was always, well, just if he gets a quarterback, he gets a quarterback, and all this, all that. I feel like we're just living in the Allen Robinson situation all over again. I think he is a solid receiver. I don't think he's just top 8 to 10 receiver in the league that everyone wanted to push him to be. So
Yeah.
it's tough for him because it's almost like he's letting everyone down when in actuality he just probably wasn't that top 10 receiver to begin with.
Yeah, and he was overhyped on, because he was on a team that had no receivers at all. There's no receivers on on any of those Washington teams that he was on before that would challenge him for targets, right? So you're basically saying, okay, where's 17 at? I'm going to throw him a contested catch. I'm going to throw the ball up to him, and we'll just let him come down with it. That seems to be what he is now, is a contested catch. He's young Devontae Parker, young Allen Robinson, whatever you want to call him. That's him, and I don't think it's disrespectful to say that because I do. I mean, I see that trajectory. You cannot be a top receiver in this league if you can't get open. And people can say, oh, he's open. Wentz just isn't hitting him. He's that might be true. That might be true. But from the games that I've watched for Washington this year, and I've watched all of them to an extent, I have not seen Terry McLaurin just get open consistently enough that they're getting him the ball in these places where he's open. I just I don't know. I have a lot of concerns about Washington. I have a lot of concerns about their offense. I have concerns about their defense too. But their defense, I thought, played okay. Again, you held Zeke to 2.6 yards a carry. You held Pollard to zero point 0.8 yards a carry. Run defense played well. Their pass defense is still terrible, but that we know that. It's their offense, man. And again, between Wentz, between McLaurin, I think Ron Rivera is probably not on the hot seat, though he probably should be. It'll be interesting to see how they continue throughout the rest of this year. But man, they're in a bad spot, and if they continue on this track, they could end up with a quarterback, in the draft. They play the Bears. That's not a guaranteed win. Packers is probably a loss. Colts is probably a loss. Vikings is a loss. Eagles loss. Texans maybe a win. Falcons maybe a win. Giants twice in a row, which is weird. Why did they do that? That's weird. But they've got a tough schedule left. I can see them winning. I could still see them winning 7 or 8 games, but I could also see them winning like 4. It's tough, man. They play the Titans too. Derrick Henry's about to. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I hope he does. Need the Henry resurgence for all the narratives out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the most fun game of the day. The game that everybody should have been playing. If you play DFS, you should have been all over this game. I unfortunately was the night before, and Mike can attest to this. I was on it, and I said, man, I don't want to have Jamal Williams, Josh Reynolds, and TJ Hawkinson in the same lineup. That's crazy. For cash games, I shouldn't do that. That's crazy. It wasn't crazy because all 3 of those players were absolutely smash plays this week. They all went crazy. Who would have thought? No DJ Chark, no Amon-Ra. Jared Goff just found a way to get his dudes the ball. Hawkinson went crazy, which is what Hawkinson's capable of doing anyway. They just really underutilize him a lot for some reason. Maybe that'll stop. Maybe Dan Campbell finally respects him. I don't know. Jamal Williams got that workhorse carry, that carry the team on your back that we thought he was probably going to get. And he looked good doing that. But, unfortunately, they ran into the Geno Smith buzzsaw on the other side. The most efficient passer in the NFL today, Geno Smith.
Yeah. Man, that defense for the Lions, that's the worst unit in the league.
Oh, they're horrible. They're horrible.
Yeah, 38 week 1, 28. I think it's the Vikings. 48 this week. Yeah. It's rough. It's rough to watch. They don't really get home in pass rush. They're outside of Okuda for 2 of probably the 4 games. The secondary has just been absolutely atrocious. I don't know what they're doing over there. And Dan Campbell was supposed to be this hard-nosed, tough guy, but I can assure you that that his plan to play football games is to not give up 48 points.
Yeah, it's surprising coming from a guy that you would expect to be more of a defensive-minded guy, guy that would want to play gritty football, want to play hard-nosed, just grind out games. This is not that style at all. And respect to Dan Campbell, because it seems like now at this point he's kind of leaning into it, where he's like, oh, fuck it. We got to throw the ball 40 times. So whatever, dude. Throw it. Cool. He just seems like he wants to win football games, and I respect that about Dan Campbell. He gets a lot of shit from a lot of people, but genuinely, he does seem just like he just wants to win football games. He doesn't really care how you win, just win. And he's not winning, but he's trying to, and give him credit, man, because the Lions are competitive, at least offensively, and at least I don't know who they've got calling plays over there, but that guy needs a raise pronto, because that offense looks good with Jared Goff under center. With receiving core, especially this week, that was really just not good in terms of their the bodies they had to put out there. Man, just hats off to Detroit, man. Like I said, they really play entertaining football. They play fun offensive football, and they're terrible in defense, which makes them even more fun to watch. But Seattle is running. Their pace of play this year is absurd. Like they are going fast this year, which is so fun. They're just letting Geno rip, which is just hilarious. because the whole thing was let Russ cook, and they weren't letting Russ cook, and they're letting Geno cook, and Geno looks like Russ to me. Like 23 for 30, 320, 2 touchdowns. He ran 7 times for 49 yards and a score. He just looks like Russ, and he's playing like Russ. I don't know, something in the water in Seattle. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett both had really, really solid games. Will Dissly scored his 3rd touchdown in 4 games. They've unlocked the Dissly. You know what I mean? Noah Fant is still playing, but
He caught a touchdown.
he did catch a touchdown. Rashad Penny, man, hats off to Rashad Penny too, because I remember they drafted him in the 1st round, right? And I remember we were in a Discord call and we were just cackling at that pick. It was hilarious. It still is hilarious. No, it still is hilarious. Don't get me wrong. But he's finally starting to at least play to the level that you would expect somebody to that was drafted that highly. He looks good this year. Rashad Penny does, and he's had some injury issues in the past and concerns with that. Rashad Penny is making the most of his opportunity. Good for him. That whole offense is fun, man. Seattle's fun. Last week against the Falcons, they weren't so fun, but this week they were fun. And I think I have to watch every Lions game because it's just the carnival. It's
You know what that really reminds me of?
What's that?
I feel like Stafford and Goff have just completely reversed places.
Yeah.
When Stafford was with the Lions and like they weren't that good, they got down a bunch.
Oh yeah, just throw the shit around the yard.
Throw the ball, and his numbers, probably looked a little better than than what he actually did out there, and that's what Goff is doing. I mean, they get down 17 points, and he didn't play well at all in the first half. And then here he comes, just chucking all around the yard. Now they're getting explosive plays, but it just seems like a little too late. And then when you watch Stafford now with the Rams, they don't have anybody that can stretch the field, and it just really feels like I'm watching Jared Goff play quarterback again for them.
It just feels, and I was thinking that too. Like Stafford feels really constrained in that offense, kind of like Goff felt constrained. Like McVay's kind of like got his hand on his shoulder, saying, "Okay, this is how we're going to do things now." And Stafford last year was fine, and it worked last year to an extent. To the extent of a Super Bowl, mind you. But like there were times last year where that offense was questionable. And then, they would, and it's kind of like this week. Like their offense hasn't looked good really for the first 4 weeks. I mean, they've looked okay at times, but like as a whole for the first start of the season, they haven't looked great. But I can definitely see what you're saying. I mean, Goff is gunslinger Stafford. He's playing like gunslinger Stafford. It's fun to watch. I will say that the game they're about to play is not going to be fun to watch because they play the Patriots on the road. That's not going to be a fun game to watch. That's going to be horrible. That game is going to be one of the worst games of the season. The Patriots are going to run the ball every play. They're going to score 27 points, and the Lions are going to score like 21. Don't watch that game. Another game that we probably shouldn't have watched is the Colts and Titans. Leave it to Mike Vrabel to get a 24-10 lead going into halftime and not score a single point for the rest of the game. That is quintessential Mike Vrabel. And if you keep up with the podcast, we're not Vrabel lovers in here. We really don't have a lot of respect for that guy, for a good reason. I mean, he's just not. He's not it. You know what I mean? He is not him. Right? There are people who are him, and he is not him. Mike Vrabel. He's not him. That's fine. Derrick Henry is. After much debate over the past 3 weeks, Derrick Henry is still him. He broke some runs today, on Sunday that I was so happy to see because people had been really questioning whether he was done. It was nice to see him come back and have a really good game. The run that he broke on the outside where puts a move on the outside corner and scores, I mean, that's just beautiful Derrick Henry football. He had another long, I think, touchdown called back that ended up in, I want to say it was a Conquos touchdown that he scored. Derrick was... it might have been Robert Woods, I'm not sure, but it ended up in a Tannehill touchdown. Derrick ran the ball in from like 20 or 30 yards out, and they got a flag on Treylon Burks for a hold. Treylon Burks also left the game with an ankle injury, I believe. I don't know. I think they said he was day-to-day. I don't think it's super serious. He got carted off. Turf toe. There you go. So it's not super serious. He'll be back, but like, do they care? No. Does it matter? No. Run Westbrook Akina or whatever his name is, and it'll be fine. Who cares? The Titans, they're boring. Glad to see Derrick playing well. And the Colts are still a dumpster fire. They are officially last in that division, I want to say, as well. If not last, then I think maybe they're tied with the Texans because they had a tie, but yeah, they're not looking good at all.
Yeah, and I think we both kind of expected this to be Titans, like I said, we both said, take over the AFC South type game.
Mm-hmm.
This is in their division, and this was a game. Them being 3.5 point underdogs, it seemed kind of weird. We were
Yeah.
kind of both on the Titans, and I mean, went how we expected. They get up 24-3, and what does a defensive coach do when you get up 24-3? You don't score any more points for the game because it's disrespectful to the sport. And Vince Lombardi would behead you if he ever saw you tack on more points.
Yeah, you just have to take your foot off the gas at a certain point. You can't just beat a team into the dirt, especially at the NFL level when everybody's professional out there. You got to be respectful. Jonathan Taylor, let's talk about that. I mean, he was the Kingslayer, dethroned Derek. He was the new RB1 king, and so far this year he has looked not very royal, should we say. 20 carries, 42 yards. He's getting the volume. He got the volume this week. He didn't get it last week against Jacksonville, but he got the volume this week, and he didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, and that much hyped up offensive line, you go and pay Quentin Nelson all that money. I mean,
friend of the podcast, Quentin Nelson. We talk about him every week. So,
I mean, it's like, dude, do they realize what year it is, or no?
No, they don't.
They're just doing shit because you just do shit, I guess.
They think it's 2013. That's why they traded for Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Who subsequently did end up having probably, I would say, his best game of the year. Just finally was able to get his real weapons involved. Mo Alley Cox, Alec Pierce, Kylan Granson. Finally able to get those guys involved in the game plan. Once you're able to get Alec Pierce and Kylan Granson going, man, there's no stopping you. And they really almost pulled the comeback off.
I will say I have to give Alec Pierce a little bit of credit because I dogged him. I still don't think he's really all that good. But these last 2 weeks, I mean, he has you throw him some jump balls, he has shown the ability to go up and get them. So credit to him. He keeps working. I'm sure he will get better. And maybe
he's looked better than Christian Watson.
Yeah, Christian Watson looks like a deer with his head cut off.
He looks like an FCS player trying to play in the NFL.
Yeah,
who's just not ready to play yet, right? Like that's really what it is. He has never. I mean, and again, I hate to say this because I say it about FCS players a lot. Most of them, though, when you get to that level and you haven't seen competition like this, it's fucking brutal. Christian Watson's used to playing against like slow white corners in the FCS. He's not used to playing against just dogs out here. He's not used to it. Alec Pierce, I mean, he's playing well. I mean, he is. He had a bad touchdown drop in week 1. I think that's what people remember the most about him so far. But he's really slowly but steadily making his way towards that wide receiver 2 area for this team. And Paris Campbell, kind of the same thing. They're kind of fighting over it. Mo Alley Cox, man, I'll give him his flowers. He's a damn decent tight end and just kind of underutilized his whole career. But when you give him opportunities, man, Mo Alley Cox has had games like this before. 6 catches, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's very capable at tight end. It just feels like he's underutilized. In a similar vein to like Kobe Fleener, who was a good tight end, and he just never used him really. Like every now and then he would have some big breakout moments, but like just kind of not used ever. But shout out to Mo Alley Cox, man. He's been grinding with that team for so long, and finally nice to see him have a good game, like a really good game.
Yeah, for sure. He's a big target out there, big athletic target. I mean,
yeah.
You can get him involved in the game plan. He's going to make some plays.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a guy like I think. When I think about tight ends that I would like for the Dolphins to get, because realistically we're not going to keep Gesicki because he can't block. Mo Alley Cox is one of those guys that I'm like, man, I would love to have a guy like that because he's a willing blocker, he's pretty solid, and he's a good target, athletic target, just a good player, just a really good player all around. And Jonathan Taylor, I believe, did get hurt. I think he has an ankle sprain. He's going to try to play this week. I don't know why. I guess he just wants his yards per carry number to continue to just tank. For his career. And we do have to give a shout out to friend of the podcast, Shaquille Leonard. He played for the first time in the NFL. Congratulations, Shaq, on your NFL debut. Putting to bed the old and in with the new. Unfortunately, they took a loss, and I think he actually got re-injured in the game, but I'm not certain about that. Moving on to the Giants and the Bears. This was the shit bowl of the week. Nobody wanted to watch this game, but also, in a way, everybody wanted to watch this game because Daniel Jones had no receivers out there. He had Richie James and Darius Slayton. Justin Fields is a must watch. He's must see TV, except for this week where he actually played okay. So it's like it really felt like none of the things that you wanted to watch this game for, ironically, were actually that interesting. Like Daniel Jones, 8 for 13, 71 yards. Saquon got the ball 30 times. Uninteresting, right? Like nobody tuned into this game to watch Saquon carry the ball 31 times. We already know how good Saquon is. Nobody cares. All right, we all know Saquon's great, cool, whatever. And then Justin Fields played like an average quarterback, which is not what you want to see. You want to see Justin Fields suck. You want to see him go out there and play terrible because it's funny. But instead, he played like a competent quarterback. He still got sacked 6 times, which is outrageous.
And there was a play where Darnell Mooney, I mean, the safety split, and I mean, as a quarterback, you snap the ball. I feel like one of your first, reads is you're reading the safeties. You're seeing what they're gonna do. Pull snap. They split immediately. They open up the Red Sea for Darnell Mooney running right down the middle of the field. Justin Fields looks at him. And he decides, that's a far ways to throw a football.
That's too far.
Even though it's only 35 yards away, I'm going to take off and run. It's just, I mean, I'm sure he didn't do that, too much during the game. He took care of the ball for the most part. Only had, there was the fumble, of course. But,
fumble, yeah.
It's just, man, they just. He's not it. He's just not it.
He's not. No, he's not. He's not. But it's funny though. Like you watch Justin Fields if you want to laugh. And it's not even laughing at him necessarily. It's like just a hateful, mean thing to do. But it's like a comedy of errors. You're watching a team with a bad offensive line and no receivers go out there with a quarterback that's just not cut out for the league. It is funny. It's just funny to watch. It's watching a plane, let's say a plane with no people, crash. Right, you can't look away from it. It's just it's crazy. Khalil Herbert, 20 carries.
Is he the NFL version of Bo Nix?
Oh man, maybe. I think Bo Nix probably has a better offensive line, but yeah, I mean I think that's probably a fair comparison.
I'm just speaking about the
just the way they play, how funny it is to watch them play football. Yeah, I would say that's probably a good comparison. Yeah. Khalil Herbert took over for Devin Singletary. No, took over for David Montgomery. Yeah. For some reason, those two guys get switched in my head a lot. I don't know. I think it's just like the D start in their names. I don't know. There's a lot of names that start with a D, but those are the two that really get me. Khalil Herbert, 19 carries, 77 yards. Played fine. I think people were expecting a lot more from him. I certainly was. He didn't really do a lot. Definitely wasn't involved in the passing game, which is something we expected as well. Tristan Ebner, whoever this guy is, got 6 carries for 20 yards. Just why? Just give those 6 carries to Herbert. Like he's proven that he's proven that he is an explosive back who's very capable of breaking long touchdown runs. Why would you give 6 carries to this guy? I don't even know who this guy is, but you give him 6 carries. Like Khalil Herbert's fine, dude. He's like 23. He's not tired. Just run him into the ground. Running backs don't last forever. But yeah, I just looked down here, by the way. 6 fumbles for the Bears. What the hell? What? How you fumbled 6 times, dude? That's crazy. They fumbled 6 times.
Ebner had 2.
Yeah, nice, Travis. Or Travis, Tristan, whatever, dude. Whatever your fucking name is. Nice fumbles, dude. By the way, Eddie Jackson is back. Those of you guys that didn't know, I'm happy to see that he's back. Thibodeau.
You are a human being.
Thibodeau had a decent game. I saw him running around a little bit out there. It looked fine. What else? I mean, Tyrod Taylor.
You can be excited when Tyrod Taylor throws Eddie Jackson an interception.
Dude, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that, dude? It's nice to see Eddie's back, dude. He's back. He's super back.
Yeah.
He's back. He's playing well this year. He is. And I don't know what his PFF grade is. Probably like a 30 because I said he's playing well. But whatever, dude. He's playing well to the eye. All right, he passes the eye test. Tyrod Taylor came in and played, and then he got concussed, and then Daniel Jones had to go out there on a gimpy ankle, and now they're looking to sign either one of our 2 former quarterbacks.
AJ McCarron, welcome back to the
AJ McCarron, congratulations, my friend. You've done it. You've beaten the odds. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This game was stinky. We talked about it too long, but it's a fun game.
By the way, Eddie Jackson, 78.2 PFF grade.
Let's go, man. That's great to hear. Great to hear. Someone who was not in the green this week on PFF, if I had to take a guess, would be Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, 11 for 23. We gave him flowers last week. We got to take those flowers back. I'm taking those flowers back and I'm stomping on them. I'm putting the boot on them because Trevor Lawrence
taking
made
those
us.
flowers back, and hopefully we don't fumble them.
Oh,
5 or 6 times.
we don't have to really take them back. All we have to do is blow on Trevor Lawrence, and he'll fumble those flowers, man. He'll fumble those flowers. Look, I know it's a rain game, but we've seen quarterbacks play well in the rain before. Nobody gave Tua the fucking rain game excuse last year when we had to play the Titans to get in the playoffs either. That ball he slipped out of his hands and everybody said his baby arm. Yeah, fuck you, Trevor Lawrence, dude. You don't get a rain excuse, buddy. Not for me. He played terrible. The whole team played terrible though. The fact that they even had an opportunity to win this game at the end is kind of hilarious to me. And then Trevor fumbled it away, which is even more hilarious because he had 4 fumbles. I think it was like the first football player in a century to have 4 fumbles, which is just immaculate. What a stat! You put that shit in the Hall of Fame. Put those 4 footballs in the Hall of Fame. I don't know, man. They weren't really able to run the ball with any success. That was not a surprise. James Robinson is still getting the lion's share of the snaps and backfield looks. Travis Etienne is still kind of a non-factor. It does appear, if you just look at the box score, that Etienne played better than James Robinson, and he may have. But Etienne is just not involved in this offense, and so all the people that thought like, oh, Etienne is going to be, a really important player for Jacksonville, I just don't see that happening. I think James Robinson is just still their favorite guy. And Etienne is just kind of trying to find a role within the team at this point, which is kind of sad for a guy that has a lot of talent. But again, that's what happens when you're a running back, man. You're a running back in a league that doesn't like running backs, doesn't care about running backs. When you're not the hot hand, and you just get overlooked, and he's just not getting the same amount of looks as James Robinson, and for a good reason. James Robinson's had a great season. Obviously, neither of them played spectacularly against Philadelphia, which is to be expected. Philly's run defense has been stout this year. It's been pretty good. I thought neither team's offense looked promising at all in any way in this game, that they were going to do anything. Philly had an explosion in the second quarter. But, Miles Sanders obviously played an incredible football game. Philadelphia's offensive line played an incredible football game. Jalen Hurts was this is the Jalen Hurts that we kind of expect from years past, right? The first 3 performances are not Jalen Hurts-esque performances. This one feels more like it. He's probably a little bit better of a passer than this because of the rain, but this is the stat line that we kind of expect from him, along with 16 carries, which is outrageous, probably 10, right? But this is kind of more of what Jalen Hurts we expect. It'll be interesting to see if he can bounce back next week.
Yeah, I'm not really gonna take too much into this game. The weather obviously had a lot to do.
Right.
There were a billion fumbles. The passing game wasn't really there.
Yep.
They had runs, so obviously Sirianni knew that as well.
Yeah.
I would just like to speak on the Jags. You get a 14-0 in this game, and honestly, you played pretty well, and then all of a sudden it just fell to shit, and you just gotta wonder what happened. Was it really the Eagles?
This guy
playing
happened.
Bridges? Was it just Trevor Lawrence fumbling the game away?
This happened right here. This is what happened. Trevor Lawrence fumbled 4 times and they lost. We were watching it, man. We were watching at the beginning, and we were like, man, because we kind of had an inkling. We had a slight idea that Jacksonville might win this football game. Just because it kind of felt like one of those days for bad weather, like anything could happen. Kind of feels like a Jacksonville day, but it just wasn't.
Yeah, it sure wasn't. It started out, you thought it would be their day, and unfortunately, they just couldn't move the ball after really that first drive, and then big 4th downs, you just can't turn the ball over. I know, all the weather and whatnot, you just cannot turn the ball over on, big 4th downs, and that's just what happened.
Yeah, Trevor had a lot of miscues too. He had a lot of errant passes that were even short screens that he was throwing over people's heads. It was just not a good day for him, and we'll see again. I'm interested to see how both quarterbacks bounce back, because neither quarterback played very well, and obviously it was raining, but it wasn't 49ers and Bears territory. This was a playable football game, and both teams just really struggled to move the ball offensively, and I should say throw the ball, because the Eagles had a good day on the ground. Miles Sanders played great. This is kind of like the Miles Sanders from his rookie year that we saw glimpses of, and we were like, man, this is a potential stud running back. And then obviously since then it hasn't necessarily been that for him, but he definitely looked the part this week against Jacksonville. Um, but yeah, I mean, interesting to see how both those teams bounce back. Interesting to see how one of these other teams bounces back. Kenny Pickett era has begun, and the Jets picked off Pickett 3 times. We're gonna say twice. We're gonna say 3, but we're with a caveat because the last one was a Hail Mary.
Yeah, like 1.5. I would.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still give him 2, but it's funny because you see the articles and you see the tweets and like, oh, Kenny Pickett picked off 3 times in his first game action. It's like that he was, and that's fine to say that. But realistically, he was picked off twice. The third one, I mean, that's a Hail Mary. Like, he is just chucking it up, hoping that somebody comes down with it that isn't a Jet. And one of the Jets did, so that gave him 3. I thought up until the last drive for the Jets, Kenny Pickett was more impressive to me than Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I mean he played. I thought he played well. This is what we've been asking for,
Yeah.
Since the beginning of is give this team a chance. Like there's weapons on this team. The defense is really good. Give him a chance. I mean, I thought he played well. There's the deep ball that you give your guy a chance. He doesn't really win it. It gets picked off. I don't fully blame that on him. No, the errant pass to Freiermuth, yeah, that was high. That was. But outside of that, I mean, you saw him on the ground too. He's willing to put his head down, and that's beautiful to watch. And for Zach Wilson, quarters 1 through 3, it looked like he was still trying to get with his mother's friend instead of playing football. And then he realized, well, I'm in the football game. In the fourth quarter, he goes 10 of 12, 152 and a touchdown, and just complete ice in his veins. That's what we expect to see. That's what the Jets expect to see. So I think moving forward, both these teams with their young quarterbacks, I think they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Zach Wilson, like you said, I mean, it's kind of that Zach Wilson in the fourth quarter is the Zach Wilson that you kind of expected from the start. And it's not fair to put these expectations on these college quarterbacks. I thought Zach Wilson was a fun quarterback in college. I had seen a fun quarterback before in Johnny Manziel. Obviously, they're 2 very different players. Zach Wilson has a cannon. He's got the arm strength that Manziel never had. You can see it on some of these short throws. Just the zip that he has on some of these balls is really, really impressive. And I don't know how much downfield strength he has, but I know that some of those passes across the middle of the field to Corey Davis, they were humming. Like those were really, really good balls that he threw. I think Zach Wilson does have a little bit of Manziel in him. He really does, and what I mean by that is his he has a tendency to do stupid shit on the field and try to create and not create in a good way. Not like, all right, so some people have that tendency to do stupid shit, right? Like Tua is a good example because he does some stupid shit where he tries to extend a play and makes an errant throw and throws a pick or like whatever, holds ball too long, tries to do something, gets a concussion, all that shit, right? Zach Wilson does the same stuff, but it looks 20 million times worse because he throws like he's scrambling around for 35 seconds, kind of like Kyler Murray, but instead of running for 10 yards or instead of hitting a receiver 30 yards downfield like Kyler likes to do, Zach Wilson just like throws it all the way across the field to nobody. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Or like almost throws a pick. And it's like, dude, what is Zach Wilson doing here? And then, the fourth quarter hits and he played like, I don't know, like he just looked good in the fourth quarter. The rest of the game, he looked terrible. The fourth quarter, he looked good. Again, it'll be really interesting next week against a struggling Dolphins defense to see how he plays. I like their offense. I like the matchup. I think that depending on how aggressive Robert Saleh wants to be offensively, that they should be able to compete with Miami. They've got the pieces. They've got the weapons. They've got the running backs, the running game. It just depends on how Zach Wilson plays. I think that they're definitely capable of competing.
Yeah, I mean, Tua out and Teddy playing.
Right.
The Jets they're not what we expected them to be, with a defensive head coach with Robert Saleh, but they're nothing to kind of turn your nose over at. They will definitely go out there and compete, and especially with the backup quarterback out there, it still will be difficult because obviously the weapons that Miami has, Mike McDaniel and whatnot. I don't really foresee the Jets staying within 10 because the Dolphins defense played kind of rough, but at the same time, you do have Melvin Ingram out there. The Jets offensive line is pretty porous. And if they can't protect Zach Wilson, well, I mean, we've seen what he's gonna do with pressure in his face. He's just gonna. It's that never say die attitude.
Like, it is, yeah, it is. It's the superstar, yeah. It's the superstar mentality is what I would. It's the Mahomes effect because he does shit right. that Mahomes does, right? But he doesn't have the talent that Mahomes has, and he doesn't have really the brain trust around him that Mahomes has to like kind of mold Mahomes into that player because he was kind of that player at A&M, and then he got to Kansas City, and then he was that player, right? So, like, he just had guys around him that really molded him to being that special type of player. Zach Wilson has Robert Saleh, right? So, it's very different. I would say the Jets' defense, their shortcomings have to just be rushing the passer. They just have a really tough time getting after quarterbacks. They had 3 sacks in this game, which I think is a season high for them, against a really bad offensive line for the Steelers. But even last week against the Bengals, man, they were not getting home. And if you can't put pressure in Teddy's face with the weapons that Miami has and how kind of iffy Miami's offensive line seems to be sometimes, yeah, I mean, you're going to get carved up by those weapons that Miami has. And I will say this, Sauce Gardner, I give him a lot of credit, man. He's looked the part, and I talked a lot of shit about Sauce Gardner because I thought, he's a tall corner coming out of a conference that and a team that really didn't play a whole lot of difficult teams last year, and the one difficult team they did play in Alabama, they kind of protected their secondary a lot and just let they ran 3-3 stack and just let us run the ball the whole game. So it's like it was hard for me, at least in that game especially, to get a read on what I thought Sauce could be against elite talent. But he's been great this year, man. I give him a lot of credit. Every time I watch him, he's making plays. He's smothering receivers. I mean, he's been impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he's everything I thought that he would, he would be. I mean, he has all the measurables, the athleticism. I mean, he's just a technician out there. It's really, really fun to watch him. He had Jamar Chase in absolute hell.
Mm-hmm.
Last
week.
He
had Deontay Johnson in hell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's forming his way to be one of the bright young cornerbacks in this league, and just fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he had Deontay Johnson in hell when he lined up outside. He had Claypool in hell when he lined up outside. George Pickens is the only receiver on the Steelers that actually had a good football game. And I'll give credit to George Pickens, man. And I honestly went into this week, and we talked about it either Sunday morning or Saturday night about how we like the Jets. And I actually took Jets money line in a parlay because I liked the Jets in that game against Pittsburgh. I thought it wasn't a bad matchup. I thought Zach Wilson would go out there and play well. He kind of did. He played well enough to win. But I definitely had in my mind that I thought George Pickens, if there's going to be a Steelers receiver that has a good game, it's probably going to be George Pickens. I felt pretty strongly about that because I knew Deontay Johnson had some issues last week with catching the football. I knew that Sauce Gardner was going to be on one side of the field, and I thought if they put George Pickens on the opposite side of the field of Sauce Gardner, then Pickens is probably going to have a good game because they're going to have to go to him. If you take some shots at him, he's going to catch some of those balls. He's a really, really good contested catch guy. He had a great game, so shout out to George Pickens, man. He played really well. And it's nice to see, again, like you said, rookie wide receivers coming good. I mean, it's nice to see that. Bills, Ravens. Honestly, I really don't. I like, as bizarre as this is, I don't have a lot to say about this game. It was a rain game as well, and again, I mean, neither quarterback really looked superb. Josh Allen definitely didn't look like himself in the rain. Imagine that. Again, it's almost like quarterbacks when they play in the rain don't necessarily play all that well. Crazy, I know, because you have to use your hands to throw the ball when the ball's wet and your hands are wet. It's crazy. But Josh Allen didn't look great. Lamar Jackson, I think his numbers look better than he actually did. I don't think Lamar looked good either, to me.
No, he played like absolute fucking dog shit. I mean, just must to be expected. Just the passing game wasn't there. He had some decent runs. There's also 20 yards of passing that was credited to him after just fucking it up and watching two Bills defenders knock it up in the air and Devin Duvernay come down with it.
He
That
did.
was
Yep.
21 yards. I'm sorry. There it is.
Yeah.
There's his
There you
long.
go.
That was just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, the Ravens, honestly, they were lucky to get up 23 in this game.
Yes.
There were some fumbles, there were some drops, just a lot of fluke to even have them up in this game. And maybe that's why John Harbaugh decided, 4th and goal at the 3, we're just going to try to go get 7 because, if we give this offense the ball back, they're probably going to drive down. And obviously that's what they did. He's going to catch a lot of flack for that decision. And I would have preferred him to kick the field goal as well. Given the conditions, going to get 7 is pretty tough.
Exactly.
But I guess, at the end of the day, the Bills drove down and they got, to the 1 yard line and everything. They, centered it up and kicked the field goal. So I guess it would not have even mattered.
No, it wouldn't have mattered. Exactly. No.
Yeah.
I agree.
I expected the Bills to win this game, and for them to fight back after a lot of things that didn't go their way, a lot of fluke type plays that happened in the first half, to go, what was that, 13 unanswered in the second half and shut the Ravens out. It's impressive.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's kind of I think it's telling about the Ravens, and again, it's a rain game, so you do have to take it with a grain of salt a little bit. Now Ravens offense, man, when you're playing a good football team and you're playing a team that is, and I feel like the Bills generally like have a playoff mentality every week. It's something I really, really admire about the Bills, something I really like about them. It feels like every single game they play is a playoff game. Like they are in that game and they are there to beat your ass, and they are there to win that football game any means necessary. They want to win every game, and other teams do too. But it feels like sometimes for the Bills, it just means more to them. Like they play with this chip on their shoulder. Like nobody expects us to be good. Nobody expects us to win. We're just gonna go win, even when everybody is now expecting them to win. And it's one of the things I really like about Buffalo, because it feels like every week they go out there with an urgency, right? And even in the Miami game, you felt that urgency. I felt it the whole game, right? And it made me as a Dolphins fan feel that same urgency. Like, oh shit, we have to win this game. This is a huge, like, massively important game. It's the third game of the year. But yeah, I mean, I think when you're Baltimore and you're playing a team like that, like Buffalo, who every game has a playoff mentality, and you go out there in the second half and you get blanked, it again starts to show those weaknesses and those things that about your offense that just don't work. Lamar Jackson is limited as a passer. And people don't like to say that. People really don't like to say that, and I understand why. Because it's a stigma around black quarterbacks. You don't want to say they can't throw the ball because you don't want to be a racist, and I get it. But Lamar Jackson can throw the football. He is not a bad passer by any stretch. But labeling him as an elite quarterback, an elite passer of the football is not accurate. He is not an elite passer of the football. He is a very capable quarterback. He's a capable passer. But his legs and his ability to run create spaces within that defense that let him throw the football to open receivers, and that's where he shines. In games like this, where Buffalo really had his receivers on lock, and he doesn't have a lot of great receivers anyway, but they had everybody kind of shut down. And when those receivers were locked down, Lamar looked a little bit lost.
Yeah, I mean, just it's it's kind of much of the same within the Greg Roman offense. You know, you don't the passing game is rough. And like you said, it's a lot of it is schemed up plays.
Yes.
But when when it's time on 3rd and 5 or 2nd and 11, and the defense knows that you're passing, it's very tough for them to create separation. And if it's not Mark Andrews or Lamar scrambling to pick up a first down, more times than not, they're not going to pick up those 3rd and obvious where they have to drop back and pass, and play action is not going to work, and you can't slip a guy up the seam or on a wheel route. And that's where their downfall is. And the teams who are going to compete and win Super Bowls, you have to be able to drop back and execute in the passing game. And if you can't do it, like we've seen with the Ravens, they're just going to be this team that, they're cute, they're fun, but they're never going to be a serious contender. And I fear that's what Baltimore is.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. And I think it's interesting too, because people can point back to that week 2 game against Miami, but I will counter with this. That Miami defense, again, like I said, has been shredded every week since that game. The reason they weren't shredded week 1 is because they were playing the Patriots with Matt Patricia as their OC. That Miami defense is not good. And Lamar, we know Lamar was able to throw it 40 or 50 times. He had a really, really good game against Miami. That's great. Um, but Lamar is limited as a passer. That offense is limited because when you get behind the chains, like you said, when you get behind the chains, if you have like a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, you're putting your offense in a really really tough spot because you don't have the receivers that are able to create that separation and get open on their own that give Lamar an easy throw to make. And if you cover Mark Andrews up the seam, or if you cover him on, an 8-yard stop or whatever, you know, Lamar's going to have a tough time breaking down a defense like that. And he can run, and he runs a lot, and he had 11 carries for 73 yards. It's great. But like you said, I mean, when you get into crunch time, you get into playoffs, and you got to throw the ball 40 times a game against a team that's a playoff team, a playoff caliber team, that's where the rubber meets the road a little bit. And that is where the Ravens have struggled. And I think they're going to continue to struggle until they either figure out a way to help Lamar develop as a passer more, or they figure out a combination of wide receivers that can create separation and get open for him so that he can make easier throws down the field to receivers who are a little bit more open than a Devin Duvernay or Rashad Bateman. And to me, trading Hollywood Brown for a first-round pick, I mean, Hollywood Brown is playing well in Arizona. And at the time we laughed at Arizona for trading a first round pick for him because it really is laughable, right? That he's a first round pick worth, right? But with the return he's given Arizona and the lack of receiving threat that Baltimore has, it really makes you kind of scratch your head and go, why did the Ravens do that exactly? Like, what did they gain? Like, they got a first round pick, but like, where does it show up on the week in and week out? Where does that show up for you? Because right now your receiving core is kind of in tatters. You don't really have anybody. So I don't know. I mean, I think Baltimore's in a weird spot. I think Buffalo, obviously, they're a good football team. I was a little weirded out by their decision on some of the players that got a lot of targets this week. Isaiah McKenzie and Jamison Crowder are an example of that. Josh Allen threw the ball 36 times, and they were like 30% of the target share. Pretty surprising. I think it may be just because they were running kind of shorter routes. And in the rain, they were just trying to dump the ball down underneath a little bit more. But that was kind of weird because Diggs only had 6. Gabe Davis only had 3. Just felt a little kind of like a weird game plan for Diggs and Gabe Davis to have less targets than McKenzie and Crowder.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of what you said. It's Gabe Davis and Diggs are more of the, the vertical threats, the back shoulder fades, the 15, 20 yards downfield. And Isaiah McKenzie, Jamison Crowder, they're the tough slot guys. And in a game, in a rain game like this, I don't feel like you really want to push the ball, down the field too much. You don't want to really turn the ball over. Although they did that in the first half.
They did.
By pumping the ball and getting some tip picks and whatnot. But that I think that was just kind of more game plan and scheme. And going back to your point about how the Bills think every game is kind of like a must win. I was listening to Von Miller today on his Twitch stream, and he was literally talking about he loved how Ken Dorsey was slamming the surface and the headset because, like you said, every game just feels like everyone's just trying to win. It's like it's a Super Bowl every week.
Yeah.
He said he loves the atmosphere, and I would have to agree. If I were to play for an organization, I would much rather deal with that than like what the NBA does and half the guys sit out every fucking regular season game.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree. I mean, seeing that mentality and every game is the most important game of the season, and a lot of teams can talk it, right? A lot of teams can talk like that, and they can say, oh, this is the most important game of the week or most important game of the season because it's the next game. Like coaches say that shit all the time. It's coach speak. But when you see players buy into that, and you see a team and a culture, and I don't really love the word culture when you talk about a team because it's overused, but I think it fits here. When you see a team culture like that, where it is all hands on deck every week, we have to win this game. It's a must win. It's a playoff atmosphere every week. The Bills fans, even though they're in Baltimore, but like home games for the Bills, I mean, it feels like a playoff atmosphere every single time that they're on the field. And to see an offensive coordinator go ballistic just for losing a game the way that they lost it, and again, part of it is because of the stress. Like you think about the stress of an offensive coordinator calling 90 plays and not winning a football game, it has to be massive, right? It has to be like aneurysm-inducing stress because you are calling a masterpiece 90 play game and you don't win. It has to just be an absurd feeling. But yeah, man, that's the thing about the Bills that I really like. It's a really cool thing about them. It's like one of the only things I like about them as a Dolphins fan. But I do like that, the way that they go about their business. Um, you could be the Bills and treat every game like a playoff game, or you could be the Chargers and get up 27 points and let your foot off the gas and almost lose to the Texans. Not almost lose. That's hyperbole. They didn't almost lose this game. Davis Mills would not let them lose this game. Davis Mills decided that he was Davis Mills today, or Sunday, I should say. He was Davis Mills, and again, for what I would say the second straight week, Davis Mills has not looked very good. I think in Houston, it's time to have a heart to heart. It was a cute story. We drafted a guy we didn't really think he was going to be anything, but man, look, oh shucks, look at him. He really is our starting quarterback, and we're going to get behind him. Yeah, it's not going to work. Now, I will say you might be able to trade Davis Mills to a quarterback needy team. Somebody might bite. Maybe give you like a third round pick or second round pick if you want. I don't know that to be true, but I mean we'll see what he does the rest of the season. But yeah, he's not the answer. And they're just not a very good football team, unfortunately. It's to be expected. I think they played really hard and really well for the first few weeks of the season, and then now they're starting to kind of come apart a little bit. I thought Dameon Pierce, again, has looked good all season. He broke a 75-yard run. Chargers defense has kind of been a little suspect here and there at times this season. But Justin Herbert finally kind of looked like himself a little bit. Joe Lombardi maybe took some of the handcuffs off of him and let him loose. Austin Eckler was finally allowed to play football for the first time this season. And good things happened for the Chargers, man. They played well. They look good.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not really surprised by how the Texans look. I mean, you go out and you hire Lovie Smith. You're probably trying to tank the season away, and I understand that. That's fine. But moving forward, Davis Mills cannot be your quarterback, and Lovie Smith cannot be your head coach. It just cannot happen. It's a cool story. Lovey's a great guy. He has a lot of respect around the league. Everyone loves Lovey. I mean, hell, he's Black Santa Claus. I mean, who doesn't love just looking at him? But he can probably be your defensive coordinator. He might not know too much outside of Tampa too, but that's here nor there. He's a good guy, but just moving forward, he can't be your head coach. And like I said with Davis Mills, it was cool. 4th round pick, whatever, out of Stanford. It's just he's just not good, man. He doesn't read the field well. He throws in traffic. Not really the biggest arm. He's just he's a quarterback on a tanking team doing his job.
Yeah, he's an average. He's an average NFL backup. Maybe even a high end NFL backup, but that's all he is to me. I don't ever see him really being a starter past this year. I think and I could be wrong. There could be teams out there like the Saints who are desperate for a young quarterback that can come in there and like help them. I mean, maybe they take a flyer on him, but even then, like you don't have Sean Payton or somebody that can really coach up a quarterback in that way. I don't know that I ever see him being a starter after this season. And it was cute. Again, like I said, Houston thought like, oh shucks, we found our franchise QB in the 4th round. Look at us. But those fairy tales only happen very rarely. Even Jalen Hurts was a 2nd round pick. It's not like he was a 4th round pick. I think Dak is like one of the only ones in the league that are like late round picks. So again, I mean, it's a cute story. Russell Wilson, yeah, exactly.
Kirk Cousins, but yeah.
How late was Kirk Cousins? Was he 3rd round pick?
No, I think he was he 4th? Because Russell Wilson. 4th, well, yeah. RG3 was what? Was he?
I think he was 4th. I think you're right because RG3 was the 1st round pick.
Yeah, I think Kirk was 4th. Because I remember Kirk was right after Russell Wilson as well.
Yeah. So I mean, there's maybe 3 out of 32, maybe a couple more. Like obviously, Geno Smith doesn't really count. But Geno didn't go 1st round, right? Because I know he had a lot of fanfare coming out of college. So I don't remember he went 1st or not, or like 1st round or not. I don't remember. Either way, doesn't matter.
Obviously, 2nd round pick.
Yeah. So there's definitely examples of it, but it's not the norm, right? Those are outliers to the norm. The norm is you get a 1st round quarterback and he's your quarterback forever. if you're one of these teams that ends up good and stays good forever, then it's because you got a quarterback in the first round who turned good, right? Houston, you're going to need a quarterback this year. It's unfortunate. But it is what it is, right? It's just the way these things go. Davis Mills is not your guy. And LA, I hope you're happy. I hope you're proud of yourself. You beat up on a terrible football team. Good job. You got to win. You did it. That's all we're going to talk about. Fuck the Chargers and fuck that team. The Cardinals and the Panthers. I mean, honestly, fuck both these teams too, right? Like, what is there to say? Baker Mayfield is terrible. Man, he's horrible. It's sad because honestly, you wonder the Baker that was in Cleveland the year that Cleveland made the playoffs, the year that like Baker's Cinderella story, right? That year, what was he just this bad the whole time? And he got it just worked out because the defense was good and the running game was good. They opened up stuff in the passing game. How do you go from being a playoff caliber quarterback, like to the point to where they were competing in Cleveland? Like, you went from that to you're 22 for 36. You can't get the ball over the line of scrimmage. You throw 2 interceptions. You have a QBR of 7. You've been terrible all year, and they're talking about benching you for Sam Darnold when he comes back. How does that happen? It is crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely insane, and it might just speak to how great of a coach Kevin Stefanski is. That
Maybe.
he had relative competent, and he had some pretty explosive games, from a yardage, in that playoff push. It's Baker was a very likable guy, the walk on from Texas Tech who goes to Oklahoma and lights the world on fire, wins the Heisman Trophy. It's just, I think he might have. I think he's met his match. I don't think he was always this talented guy. I think he was in a great situation with Lincoln Riley and with Stefanski. I just don't think he's another guy, like we talk about Wentz, another guy that has to have everything perfect around him, to be a competent, successful quarterback. And obviously in Carolina, that's probably one of the worst situations that you can have with Matt Rule and all them. So it's he's not going to be successful. He's not very good, and it's rough to watch.
Yeah, it is. It honestly, it's just kind of sad at this point because I do like Baker, the player, in terms of what he brings to the field when he's playing at his best, because he did bring a level of just like don't give a fuck, and energy. But yeah, but it was that attitude that he brought, the like I don't give a fuck attitude. I'm gonna plant the flag. I'm gonna flip people off on the sidelines. I just don't care. Like he's like one of the last true rogue quarterbacks, it seems like, and he's going out with a whimper, man, and it's sad to see it. But what's really funny though is when you look on the other side at Kyler's stats, they're not that far off. I mean, like they didn't really play that different of a football game.
Yeah, they sure didn't, and there was a kind of a big turnover in that game that kind of shifted. I think it was a 6-point Cardinal lead, and they got JJ Watt got his hands on JJ Swat again, and that ended up interception, and I think they punched it in, and then they got a one-on-one with Hollywood later or something like that. I know he scored a touchdown, so I think that they scored a lot late that made it look pretty good, but they didn't play a good game. I mean, there's just miscues all over the field for Arizona. 4th and 1, we can't snap the ball to Kyler Murray, snap it 10 feet over his head. Even though for a normal quarterback, that's probably right in his chest.
Yeah,
we won't go
exactly.
There,
yep.
Yeah. It's just it's Cliff Kingsbury. Congratulations, you farmed to win against even more incompetent head coach who will be coaching at his local church next year. So I guess congratulations to you. And yeah, that's all I got. And obviously, in Marquise Brown, he is impressive, and you touched on it previously. The Ravens getting rid of him is just kind of a what the fuck moment.
Yeah, it's just confusing, right? Yeah, it's just kind of confusing. I mean, he's playing well in Arizona, and he played well for the most part in Baltimore. He had some drops, and I know the fans were kind of getting sick of that and sick of his drop passes and his kind of injury woes that he had in Baltimore. But I mean, he's looked the part in Arizona, and he's kind of keeping that offense afloat every now and then, where it seems like they're kind of flying off the rails. But yeah, to your point about Kyler, I mean, those stats are, I mean, they're damn near identical. And for us to be slating Baker and not slating Kyler, I mean, I know people are kind of saying that Kyler's obviously not having a great season, but I mean, he deserves some criticism from people. I mean, it obviously his completion percentage is a little bit better, but I mean, realistically, when you look at it, I mean, he's what, one interception and like 10 less yards away from having the same game as Baker, just about. So, and I think Kyler threw a pick six as well, right? He threw a pick six, right? He did.
No,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
he did.
He did. He threw one to Frankie Louvu. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It was a smooth pick six too. It was, if I remember it, it was a smooth one.
Shallow cross, and
Yeah.
he was all over it, and I don't know why he threw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to talk about Hollywood, he did request a trade, but if you're the Ravens, you have to talk him into wanting to stay in.
Yeah,
Baltimore.
you can't trade him. He's your only receiver on
He
your team.
left. Yeah, he wanted to leave obviously because of the system, and he didn't say it was Lamar. He said it was the system. He doesn't want to be a run blocking receiver, but it's kind of you can kind of read in between the lines there as well.
Well, see, and I felt like that for a long time with Baltimore too. It's like if you're gonna have this type of scheme in terms of your offense, why do you have Devin Duvernay and Rashad Bateman and Marquise Brown out there? You need to go and get these 6'4", 6'3" freak wide receivers who are willing pass blockers, but are also capable of winning contested catches. And then maybe you have a slot guy, a Cole Beasley archetype type player who's going to get open in the slot, give Lamar some easy outlet passes if those big guys aren't in one-on-one situations where they can go up and get the ball. I've always been kind of confused by that. It's just one of those things in the NFL that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because if you're going to run the ball predominantly, in my opinion, you should want big-bodied receivers who are going to block and who are going to be willing participants in that. And they haven't really had that. So it's kind of weird, but
yeah, they definitely need at least a guy out there, because they're trying to get these this is the whole almost Urban Meyer type offense where you want the small speedy guys out there we can throw the quick screens to, and kind of
right.
That's how you get them the ball, because obviously they know Lamar isn't this great passer, so they want to get the high percentage completions and then the yak yards after. But you are right, they needed to take George Pickens. Some guy
did.
some big dummy you can just throw the ball up to,
yeah,
and let him just go get it.
Treylon Burks, either one.
Yeah,
both. Get them both. Go get them both. Like, get Treylon Burks and get George Pickens. They're both big guys. They'll be willing blockers. Go get both of them. Stick them out there on either side of Lamar and have them just run. And then if Lamar sees him in one-on-one coverage and he likes the matchup, then fucking throw the ball to him. But, like, when you're trying to throw contested catches to Devin Duvernay, it's just not a recipe for success at all. And again, we've talked about Lamar's not the best passer in the world, but you're not really necessarily putting him in the best positions to succeed when you have these smaller receivers who really aren't getting open very much. His only option is really Andrews at a certain point. So yeah, that's just weird, man. The Ravens are a weird team, and we're talking about them when we're supposed to be talking about the Cardinals, but whatever. Cardinals are boring. Panthers are boring. They're both bad. Cardinals, congratulations on, like you said, farming a win against a coach that's going to be fired very, very soon, if not immediately. New England and Green Bay. I don't really care about talking about this game for very long either. Brian Hoyer's triumphant return to the field ended short. He got hit in the head, and this week, if you got hit in the head, then you were out for the rest of the game. No shot, you're going back in, buddy. We don't want an internal investigation over here. You're out of here. So Bailey Zappi came in and played fine. I heard that, I can't remember if it was Skip Bayless or Colin Cowherd. I can't remember which one. Oh, no, neither. It was Mike Tannenbaum. All right, Mike Tannenbaum on ESPN. I don't know if you heard this. After the Patriots game, said that he thinks that the Patriots may have finally found their starting quarterback.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. That's yeah, man. I mean, that I really couldn't believe what I was watching, that he was actually playing quarterback in the National Football League. I think
good for him.
I think my sister with her left hand could put more velocity on the ball than he did. I was actually like in shock. I talk about Joe Burrow and how his arm is really weak. I was in shock that Bill Belichick actually puts this kid on the field. You're right. Good for him. He's still in a check.
Yeah, I mean,
Cam,
and again, Mike Tannenbaum. I mean, there's a reason that you're on TV spewing hot takes and not in the front office, dude. If your brain is wired like that, you have got some major issues, and I don't know what's going to help you, but that is crazy. Because
it
Bailey
probably
Zappi,
was. He probably wanted to. Everyone's around the Patriots wants to make some Brady comparison in some way. They did it with Mac,
yeah,
and they probably saw, oh, this kid comes off the bench. He's not really highly regarded, and he threw a touchdown. So guess what? He's the next quarterback.
threw a
But
touchdown to Devontae Parker.
on
Uh,
a play where, first of all, the play clock hits zero,
it absolutely did.
1,001, 1,002, 1,003, and then the ball snapped, and then
And then
he's wide open.
the play clock switches back to a 40-second play clock, and
Yeah,
then they snap
40.
the ball.
Yeah,
What do
exactly.
the
Just
referees even look at? Like, what do they do? Like, what do they look at? That see, and to me, there should be a review process on something like that, especially when it's a scoring play, where you can go back if it's a delay of game and it's that egregious, and you say, all right, man, it's a delay of game. There's no touchdown, delay of game. Like that's crazy. Uh,
yeah.
I mean, that definitely shouldn't have counted. Um, I thought Damian Harrison or Mondre Stevenson did exactly what I thought they were going to do. I remember telling you that I was agonizing over who to play in DFS this week between the two of them. I
Mhm.
didn't play either of them. Damian Harris was the correct play. I was going to play him. He was the right play at the end because he did score his touchdown. I did not play either of them, but I did agonize over that because Green Bay can't stop the run, and Green Bay doesn't look like they can stop anything. They don't look good defensively to me. I know Rashawn Gary has looked good this year. He's played well, but like as a whole, that defense does not look right. Their offense also doesn't look right. Um, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon both had good games. They both played well. Aaron Rodgers had a mediocre game. He also threw a pick six before halftime that really just kept New England in the game when they had no hope at all. Uh, Alan Lazard had a big game. We kind of expected that. Romeo Dubs had a big game that could have been a bigger game uh, had he
Oh, brother.
finished the catch. I know, yeah. So, just brief background. Monty had $1,000 roughly riding on
Yeah.
that catch that wasn't by Romeo Dobbs. Uh,
Yep.
Obviously, disappointing moment. Um,
It's funny, they count the touchdown where the play clock hits zero and it's clear it should be delay game. That's a touchdown.
mhm.
But Romeo Dobbs catches the ball, possesses it, takes 1-2, hits the ground, and then the ball comes out, and that's not a touchdown. Yeah, I bet, man. I bet, Roger. Thanks, man.
Nice,
Appreciate it.
Raj. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I don't. I think the thing that bothers me a lot about the catch rule in the NFL is you catch a ball, or let's say you're a running back or anybody, and you're running with the ball. You cross the plane. They punch it out as you're going down while you cross the plane. It's not a touchdown. You catch the ball in the end zone, get 2 feet down, go to the ground, and don't possess it to the ground. It's an incompletion. Man, it's just weird. It's a weird rule, and I understand why because it's hard to like quantify what should be and shouldn't be a touchdown. But it's almost just like this feeling that you get, right? And that's such a weird way to say it, but when you saw him catch that ball, that's a touchdown. Like, yeah, he
Yeah,
went to the ground and didn't finish the catch, but like that's a touchdown, dude. He caught it. He took a couple steps. Ball got knocked down on the way to the ground, but that's a touchdown. It should have been a touchdown. It should have. I think it should have counted. I understand the rule and I understand why it wasn't, but at the same time, it's like when you watch the game and you're seeing it, you just kind of think like that should be a touchdown. That kind of doesn't sit right.
yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah.
Because, yeah, like you said, like if you catch a ball, let's say you catch a ball like at the 2 yard line. You make the catch, 1-2, you reach the ball out, you cross the plane, and then the defender hits you and the ball squirts free. It's a fucking touchdown.
It
It's
is. Yeah, it
you
is.
don't have to maintain this ball to the ground and finish the process of the catch. I thought we should have gotten rid of that when Calvin Johnson caught the touchdown against the Bears, and he had full possession, hits the ground, but hits the ground. He's about to get up, and then he drops the ball.
Hmm.
We should have fixed that, well before that, or
Yeah.
well after that. Sorry, but we don't know the catches.
No, we still don't. And again, maybe a catch is just the feeling that you get when you see one. You know what I mean? Like I felt like that was a catch. Maybe it should have been a catch. I don't know. But other than that play, Green Bay got the ball in overtime, squandered their chance the first time, punted it. Patriots got the ball, didn't do anything with it, and Green Bay won the game on a field goal. So, I mean, honestly, mostly just a boring game with little sprinkles of entertainment mixed in, but it was mostly boring. Um, a game that, in my opinion, was also mostly boring was the Broncos and Raiders. Uh, everybody's saying Russ is back. Russ is back. Russ had 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you want to say that he's back, that's fine. But that ain't back, dude. That ain't back. That ain't Russ. That ain't 330 yard, 3 touchdown Russ with however many yards on the ground. That ain't Russ, dude. He played better this week, and the offense for the Broncos played better this week, I thought. But it's still not necessarily him being back. I appreciated the fact that they were able to get Judy and Sutton more involved in the game plan, and they slowed down on the dump off passes and the passes to tight ends. Mike Boone and Saubert still got 5 targets between the two of them, or Mike Boone's running back. So, but yeah, they had 5 targets. Melvin Gordon had a target. Javonte Williams had a target. But it didn't seem like as many dump offs this week. It felt like they were actually trying to attack the secondary, which is a step in the right direction. Nate Hackett, thanks for listening. I don't know, man. I mean, offense still doesn't feel right. Javonte Williams is out for the year. Melvin Gordon keeps fumbling. He won't stop fumbling. There's nothing you can do to stop the train, dude. That fumble train is rumbling, and it is nonstop.
Yes,
man.
I just think the Broncos are, who they are. Like after 4 weeks of football, I don't think we're going to see too much change. They're going to be it was a lot better that they tried to stretch the field a little bit more, and maybe we'll see a little bit more of that. But I just, especially if they get into tight games, to try to get into the playoffs, I just don't see them being this aggressive team that everyone thought they would be, with Russell Wilson. I think they're going to be a very controlled team. They're going to try to win 20-17, and if the score gets up there, they're just kind of they're just going to get beaten. They're just going to wither away because they can't score. They can't score enough points. Sorry, English is hard. they can't score enough points to really compete with the Chiefs or maybe even like the Chargers out there in the AFC West, and I just
or the Raiders.
Or the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
yeah.
I don't see this really changing. A lot of people, just give it some time. New team, blah blah. I don't think this is really going to change too much.
Nah, I mean it doesn't seem like it. I mean, it seems like a coaching philosophy at this point. It seems like the scheme is what the scheme is. It doesn't really seem like, they're having trouble implementing the scheme. It just feels like this is what it is. It's a short passing system where you check down. It's snap the ball at 1 on the play clock. It's get your running backs as involved in the game as you can. I mean, that's the scheme. And for better or for worse, whatever we think about it, it just seems like that's what they're doing. And if that's what they want to do, then again, I agree with you. I think it's going to be hard for them to keep up. Looking at the Raiders, they were far too good of a team to be 0-3. They were definitely far too good of a team to be 0-4. I don't know where this team ends up, but I think they have started to maybe find a bit of an identity, at least in this game, and a little bit with the last game as well, with just getting Josh Jacobs more involved. You're not going to pay him. We all know that you're not going to pay him, and that's fine, because McDaniels is not going to pay a running back. So it's kind of like what we said in previous podcasts. Run him into the ground if you're not going to pay him. And I like Josh Jacobs, and he's my guy, and I don't want to see him run into the ground. I want to see him get paid by somebody. But run him into the ground if you're not going to pay him. And that's kind of what they did this week. And he is a perennial Bronco killer. He just kills the Broncos every time they play. And 144, 2 touchdowns. But what is more interesting is the fact that basically for back-to-back weeks, he has been targeted out of the backfield 11 times total for back-to-back weeks. That's really an impressive number for him. It's more of what we thought he was going to be coming out of college. They're finally kind of utilizing him to what we expected him to be in terms of a downhill runner, while also being a willing pass catcher and contributing in that passing offense as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, I feel like they just, they took what the defense gave them. If they're going to play these light boxes, they're going to be scared of Devontae Adams and Darren Waller. And, that explosive downfield, which you think that's how the Raiders, are going to play.
Yeah.
Just take what the defense gives you, man. If they're going to give you 4 or 5 yards to carry, take that. If they're going to give you, the 5-yard dump off, take it. I think the first couple weeks, and I think we, you said this, we were in Discord watching the games. They were just really trying to be the greatest show on turf and get Devontae Adams, get
Yeah.
Waller, and put up these crazy numbers. Just play football, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Just play football. You know,
Yep.
if the defense is gonna give you 4 or 5 yards, take those yards, man.
Football's a
And
really easy sport. Like it really
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's an easy sport, man. You know, defense is going to give you a certain look, and you have to be able to adjust, and you have to be able to figure out, okay, this is the look we're going to get when we're in this formation. What can we do to counteract that? And when we put Devontae in the slot, we put Waller out wide. We put Waller in the slot, put Devontae out wide. We put too tight on the field. You know, what kind of looks are we getting? What are we going to have to do to counteract some of the looks we get? And the Raiders have seen pretty light boxes this year, and they've seen a lot of people backing off. And finally, you know, you utilize the guy that in his career so far has one of the highest percentages of, first of all, missed tackles in terms of forcing missed tackles. He is elite at an elite level as a running back of forcing people to miss, which is impressive. And not only that, but yards after contact, he is elite. So you're looking at a guy who forces missed tackles and breaks tackles at a pretty elite level. He's just a guy you got to get involved, man. I know you don't love running backs. I know people in the NFL these days don't love running backs. But, man, when you have a running back like that, especially when you can run him into the dirt because it's his last year, you have to do that. You have to. So, again, it was a good game plan from Vegas. I liked what they did. Derek Carr was not able to beat you with turnovers. It was a good day for them. I thought Derek could have been better, but man, he was going up against a really, really good secondary. And every time Devontae Adams was lined up against Pat Surtain, he was in hell. He ended up with a really good stat line, but I think his stat line with Surtain was like 3 catches for 30 yards on like 6 targets. So like Surtain had him in a really, really bad spot, and to the point where they had to get creative with how they used him, and they did, and he ended up with getting his yards. But when he's the only one on that team that's doing anything with regards to catching the ball, it's not bad at all. You know, if this is the extent of their passing offense, you're doing a good job on defense. I think that it was more so the front seven, their inability to stop Josh Jacobs, that was kind of their undoing in this game.
Yep.
Yeah. Moving on. Kansas City against Tampa Bay, and finally Tampa Bay has returned. Tampa Bay is back. All right. He's back, man. He's back. 52 pass attempts, 385 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's back. 6 rushing attempts for the team. 6. He's back. He is back. Realistically, he's back because they were about to get dog walked by the Chiefs. They had to start throwing the ball every play, or they were going to get booed out of their own building. If that continued. Thought the Chiefs played a really efficient football game. I thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we talked about it in Discord when we were watching the game. First of all, they ran the ball 37 times. That's a lot. But CEH, man, he finally is starting to kind of come into his own a little bit as a runner. It's nice to see him finally kind of get into that zone and kind of play up to that potential that they expected him to play for the past 2 years. But he looks better this year than he has basically his whole career. And this offense finally looked like they started clicking a little bit in terms of getting guys involved that should be involved, right? Travis Kelce, very, very, very involved. Juju Smith-Schuster, 8 targets, seemed more involved in this game. He had a modest stat line, but he was involved. And it just felt like the Chiefs' offense kind of started to click this week.
Yeah, it seemed like a very playoff-like mentality from the Chiefs, with their target shares and how focused Mahomes was, how crisp he was, in his reads. Everything just seemed very focused and very, almost Bills-like, I guess you can put it at this point. Like, it was a must-win game for them. And, they came in there and they played like it. It was impressive to finally watch them, to look like that they're, back in, regular Chiefs form. And obviously you have the mixtape play that Mahomes makes at the 1-yard line. Just absolutely just unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, that was very encouraging to watch. And Brady, on the other hand, I thought he looked pretty good. I thought the passing game looked good. I thought, Mike Evans, he did his thing. He slaps DBs in the head at the goal line.
He does, yeah.
He'll make his play. I'm surprised Todd Bowles allowed them to throw the ball 52 times and run six. I thought he might have just had a heart attack at that point, but he did it, and
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it's an encouraging sign for Tampa moving forward because the offense isn't dead. It's just been dormant. Now, what you have to do is try to figure out a way to get Todd Bowles to allow this offense to play from the start,
Mhm.
because it seemed like from the jump Tampa wanted to be more balanced. They wanted to kind of play a different style. And then when they got down 14-3 at the end of that first quarter, it was all hands on deck. They were like, "Oh shit, we got to actually we got to start scoring points. Let's throw the ball. Let Byron take over. This is your team." You know, and for all of Todd Bowles, everything that all the flowers he's been given as a defensive minded coach and a defensive coach, giving up 41 points to a Chiefs offense that's been kind of struggling this year, that's not a good look. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire being able to run for 4.8 per carry, Pacheco running for 5.7 per carry against that vaunted front seven is not good. They've been less good against the run this year than they were last year, and obviously they were almost historically good last year. So obviously you'd expect some sort of drop off, but it has been pretty significant drop off from this year to last year. So it'll be interesting to see how how their defense responds. They play the Falcons, so a good week to respond. Right? They really have three fairly easy games until they play the Ravens. So they should be back on form. They should be 5-2 by the time that they face Baltimore at home. So
And
Kansas
if you want
City.
the real reason as to why the defensive line is struggling, leave a comment in the comment section. I'll tell you why they're actually struggling.
Oh, okay. I might have to leave a comment because I don't know. Is it Vita Vea? I know Vita Vea's still playing, so it can't be him. They paid him a
No,
lot of
it's
money.
in addition to the coaching staff.
Okay. Uh, yeah. So Monday night happened. Uh, man,
Yeah,
this game happened. It was a game. Uh,
I would say it was just kind of what I expected. It's a classic 49ers dominating the Rams on in regular season. I don't know. It's a
yeah.
very normal performance. Obviously Debo has the crazy play.
Right.
D'Amico Ryans understands that there is no deep threat on the Rams, so use Hafunga any way he wants. He can blitz him from depth. He can use him as a spy. He can just do everything that he wants because you only really have to play single high, and you can just kind of, even if you want to bracket, Cooper Cup, you can bracket him with that single high safety, and then everyone else they can. Ben Skoranek, Allen Robinson, they're not gonna create separation, get open. So you can
Yeah.
be as aggressive as you want, against this Rams offense right now. And I think that's really what separated them last season was Van Jefferson being able to stretch the field and opening up a lot of underneath stuff, for Odell, Cooper Kupp, even Tyler Higbee. It opened up so much that offense, and not having that deep threat is killing Matthew Stafford because obviously when he is at his best, he's able to stretch the field.
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson, Van Jefferson last year, even Cooper Kupp got some downfield stuff, but now he can't really be that downfield threat because he has to work in the 5 to 20 yard range because that's where the more consistent passes are going in this offense right now. So I would, I don't know when Van Jefferson's coming back. I know he's on the IR. It's rough for him. They have to try to form somebody in that kind of in that mold, that role. I don't know if it's Brandon Powell or if it's Tutu Atwell. So some fast guy that 3 or 4 times a game you can run them on that deep post that the Rams kind of made famous last year, and let Matthew Stafford just air it out and see what happens. Because right now defenses are playing way too aggressive against them, and really McVay hasn't made an adjustment yet.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, because like you said, you just need somebody fast. I mean, they could go pick up Andy Isabella. He just got released. He's a fast guy. They've got fast guys that they could use. It just feels like they don't trust those guys. Um, they don't trust Tutu Atwell. They don't trust Brandon Powell. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's a weird one for the offense for the Rams. I would say 49ers, I mean, they played well enough to win the game. I don't think that they were outrageously good offensively. I think they had a lot of stalled out drives that just kind of bogged down a lot. But that's kind of what they are on offense anyway. They're a defensive team first, and that's kind of what they've shown. And I do think that if I was D'Amico Ryans, I would force the team that hires me as a head coach this offseason to give me Hufanga, put a package together. He's coming with me. All right, that guy's coming with me. I'm not leaving unless I take this guy with me, because the way he's been able to utilize him this year and the way that they've kind of built this just dynamic player in that secondary and been able to walk him down the box and just play him in a lot of different ways. It's been really impressive to watch. And again, I think D'Amico is getting a lot of credit. He's getting a lot of flowers this year. I think he will be a head coach at some point, just because teams love, they love a young defensive-minded coach. If they don't love anything else, the only thing they love more than a young defensive-minded coach is an old defensive-minded coach. So,
or Sean McVay's coffee boy.
Or Sean McVay's coffee boy. Which Sean McVay might be losing some of his luster if he keeps playing like this. 9 points is not enough. He might be fall. That tree might be getting chopped down. Might become the Shanahan tree instead of the McVay tree. We'll just go back to the Shanahan tree. But
and back to the Niners too. They had definitely some stalled out drives where there's a drop pass from, was it Charlie Warner, I think. And
not Kittle. Not Kittle is what I called that.
Oh, Kittle's the pseudo right tackle.
Yeah, he's the OJ Howard of this team now. Because OJ Howard, when he went to the Bucs, that's all they turned him into a left tackle. That's kind of what the Niners do to Kittle. He's just a left tackle. I mean, Trent Williams is out, so I get it to an extent, but dude. He's such a dynamic playmaker when you get him the ball. I took his over in this game too, because I know the Rams have had some trouble against tight ends, but it's not something they wanted to exploit. That's fine. I mean, cool, whatever. You won, enjoy.
Yeah, I really do it. And outside of that, I enjoyed the game that Kyle called. But that 4th and goal at the 1 and just trying to make him jump off sides and take him to the leg game. I mean, good lord, good lord, dude. He really got bullied. He got bullied from the Super Bowl, and now he's just the most conservative person in history of the sport.
He deserved to get bullied because they had what was it 3rd down and 8, right? They were on the 30. They're in field goal range. Run the ball and you kick 3 and you're good, and they threw it and Matt Ryan got sacked. I know it's not all his fault. That's one of the worst. That's one of the worst play calls in the history of sports to me.
I don't think so.
No, it is, man.
Because he's the scapegoat, because everyone loves to run the ball and be conservative. And dude, they could run the ball, lose 3 yards, and Matt Ryan can miss that field goal, and they go down and score. Let's talk about how how the Patriots had 3 points with 2.5 to go in the 3rd quarter, and somehow ended up with 34. Can we talk about that?
No, we can't, because this podcast is coming to an end. We can't talk about that. Fuck that game. Look, Kyle Shanahan, you robbed Julio Jones of a ring, and I will never forgive you for that. He should have a Super Bowl ring, and his legacy should be cemented. And now he is trying to win one with Tampa Bay, and that's just not going to happen.
With no Giselle.
With no Giselle, no kneecaps for Julio. No ligaments, no anything, no cartilage. He's got nothing left, man. It's bone on bone. It's Jay Ajayi, all right? And you're out. You cost him that. He could have retired already. And instead, he's running out there with Jay Ajayi knees, all right? So I got no love for Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a great coach, but that highway robbery of Julio's Super Bowl is just it's too much for me. But anyway, we are going to be back on this channel. We are going to have a betting guide video coming out really soon. We're going to have the DFS first look video coming very soon. 3 videos at least this week coming out, so keep an eye out for that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video or podcast. If you did, make sure that you like the video, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube shit. We really appreciate it, man. The channel's been getting views, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, we see 20, 30 views, and it may not seem like a lot, but when you're just starting out and you're just kind of posting stuff and don't know who's going to watch, when you get people to watch it, even 30, 40 people, that's really cool, man. So, keep enjoying the content, spread the content around, do all the YouTube shit, like I said. Appreciate you. Make sure you stick around the channel for more, and we'll see you guys soon. Don't forget to go on forth.